Good morning, everybody. So I am Ciarán Quinn. I'm the research support librarian here in the library. And this morning I'm going to talk about the data behind the rankings, specifically the data in Scopus and SciVal, because obviously we can't access all of the data they use, but so I'm just going to look at the data that is available to us. Okay, so what are the university rankings? So there's lots of rankings, and these are just, I suppose, some of them. Times Higher, QS, CWTS, Shanghai, but the main one of interest to us, I suppose, is the Times Higher. That's the most commonly one that we'd have contact with. And that provides overall world top 200 rankings, branded lists of further 200, best of the rest universities, top 50 institutions by subject. So they do by institution, and they also do by subject area within that. Okay. So the rankings themselves, and this is from the Times Higher themselves, so they're in their own words as such. The World University Ranks provided a definitive list of the world's best universities with an emphasis on the research mission. It's only the Global University League table to judge research-intensive universities across their core missions, and includes the learning environment, research quality, industry, and international outlook, and 18 calibrated performance indicators to provide the most comprehensive and balanced comparisons. And the overall list is accompanied by 11 specific subject categories. So if you're interested by subject, and that's field weighted by subject as well. So it's kind of, they give it a little bit of weighting depending on what the subject area is, and what you might expect in a certain subject area. And those links just give you a bit more detail on that, on their methodology. And they have a very, very good website on it as well. Actually, go through and look at it in more detail. So just the rankings in Ireland. So number one, there's Trinity, and there is Maynooth down here in the 401 to 500s. And the big differences, as I can see, seems to be more to do with student teacher ratios. We wouldn't be as strong as that. So the likes of Trinity, and number of international students. But again, you would expect that with the likes of Trinity. They're kind of a bigger institution, so they probably would have more numbers for that. And then Scopus. So the data for the Times Higher is taken from a database called Scopus, which is from Elsevier. It used to be Web of Science up to a few years ago, but at the moment it's Scopus. So I suppose from our point of view, that's the one I suppose we kind of focus on if we want to try and improve our rankings. And what Scopus will do is going to calculate the overall rankings based on the institution's activity in teaching, research, citations, international outlook, and industry income. But the main one I'm going to look at is just the citations, which is the research influence. Okay, and that's the university's role in spreading new knowledge and ideas. And it's calculated using the Bibliometric Data set produced using Scopus publication data, and accounts for about 30% of the overall ranking. So it's important, but it's not the whole picture. But it is one, I suppose, that we can go in and look at directly and try and influence. Okay, they also use the Scopus Dataset for the research productivity indicator, and that's 6% of the ranking, and international collaboration, which is a further 2.5% of the ranking. So that's 38%. And altogether that we can, I suppose, have some direct input on and understand where the metrics are coming from. The Scopus Bibliometric Data set, it's organized in a structured, accessible manner. Okay, so they have relationships between the author and the institutional profiles. And again, that's an area that we can look at, that we can kind of clean up a bit to make sure that all the Maynooth profiles are in there. That everybody's under Maynooth University, not NUI Maynooth and so on, to make sure that's all correct. And then academics can go in themselves and look at their own profiles, and if they need to maybe merge their identities, sometimes they have multiple identities, they can kind of clean that up a bit as well and make everything a bit more transparent. The data set is supplied by Elsevier, Scopus, as I mentioned, and it's based on publications in a 5-year window, and then they take citations in a 6-year window. They also do field-weighted impact. Okay, and the field-weighted citation impact uses what would be expected based on the average of the subject field. So what would you expect in a certain field? So for example, cell biology could be quite different to, history, for example. They have different publication rates, different citation rates, all that kind of thing. And impact of 1 is the expected for world average. So if you see anything above 1, you're above world average. Anything 0 point, you're below world average. Okay, and the number of publications for the research productivity indicator. So how many publications are we producing? And again, that would have to be weighed up because obviously, a smaller institution, we're not going to produce as many publications as the bigger ones. Then the proportion of the university's total relevant publications that have at least one international co-author for the international collaboration indicator. So they take into account how many international collaborations you have going on. So again, that's an important one, from a Maynooth point of view, to push that a bit. Okay, Scopus data in your institution. So it's important to understand what is in the database and which part does the Times Higher use. So what's the content and coverage? So you could go into Scopus and just see exactly what journals are they covering, what date ranges are they covering, because that'll all influence what goes into the rankings. What's the profile? How it can be managed? And we can access the profile wizard and the affiliation hierarchy. And a number of us in the library and the research office would have access to that. So if you see issues around the affiliation hierarchy, how, the Maynooth is described, and if there's something that you wanted in that's missing or not being picked up on, you could let us know about that and we could try and bring it in. And the same with the author profiles. We can advise academics on how to update their profiles, or they can do it themselves as well, and we're happy to talk to them about that. And then we need to just look at what can be done to improve Maynooth's rankings in those areas covered by Scopus. So when we go into Scopus and we look at what they cover, is there anything we could do to influence the number of publications in there, the number of citations we're getting, that kind of thing. Okay, the Scopus content itself, there's a full listing at the link here, and that'll give you a listing of everything that's included in Scopus. So everything the index is in there. And there's also a thing called Scopus Sources tab, which I'll show you when I go live in a minute. So the idea of there is you can go into Scopus Sources and again see a full listing of all the journals they include, either as a full listing or by subject area. You can look at that. And there's also a tool in there called Compare, where you can go and compare one journal with another. And just to note as well, the Times Higher, it only uses 5 publication types when calculating the rankings. So they don't include everything. They include articles, reviews, conference proceedings, books, and chapters. So not everything. So these are the important ones from a ranking point of view, I suppose, to focus on. And you probably notice immediately there will be obviously a lot of areas academics publish in that are not included. So that is an issue. So just to show you some of what these things look like. So this is just a shot from Scopus and the university rankings. So this is Scopus, and you can go in there by subject area. So this will be at a Maynooth level, search by affiliation, and you'll get a breakdown of the different subject areas within Scopus, and then nicely broken down. And you can look at that affiliation, the hierarchy involved in that, who we're collaborating with, where the papers are coming from, what journals we're publishing in, what are the high-ranking journals, what's the most popular journal we're publishing in. Because obviously that can influence where you might decide to publish your work if you want to be included in the rankings. The data itself, so from a research publication point of view, the data we're interested in is the number of citations an article gets, the number of articles a research institution has published, any research collaborations, particularly international ones, and authors affiliated to an institution. So what authors are actually affiliated with Maynooth. And obviously, that'll vary as academics come and go. That can affect the rankings as well. Some of the calculations then, and as I mentioned, 38% of these relate to publications. So it is an important area. That's something we can influence. But there's 5 major areas they look at. So there's teaching, which is about 30%. So things like reputation, staff-student ratios, doctorate to bachelor ratio, doctorates awarded, which is fine. Research volume then. So from a citation publication point of view, the one we can affect is the productivity, and that's 6% of that. Obviously, they aren't all in there, it doesn't add up to 30%, but the main ones would be the reputation, income, and then the productivity. So publication staff, academics, and research will produce, and that's 6% of it. And then citations, research influence, that's field weighted, is 30%. Okay. And then within that, some key areas within that as well. So for example, international collaboration is 2.5%. Okay. And then international outlook, industry income as well, all important. So like a lot of it is kind of things maybe you can't immediately change, like staff ratios, our reputation based around surveys. But a woman can really get stuck into, I suppose, is the number of publications and citations we're getting. And publishing in high impact journals. So the citation data, the research influence bit. So they're looking at publications for a 5-year window and citations for a 6-year window. And as I mentioned, it's a 5-year field-weighted citation index. So it normalizes the subject area, the publication year, and the publication type. So the idea is it's a little bit fairer than rather just basing it just purely on number of citations. They're taking into account the subject area. Then there's research productivity, and that's 6% of the research score. So this is shows the researcher's ability to publish in peer-reviewed titles indexed in Scopus, which you can immediately see problems with all that, of course, that it's a limited pool of journals, but that is what they're focusing on. And then the count is then within 5-year publication windows of journal articles, article reviews, conference proceedings, books, and book chapters. And they're scaled for institutional size. They take that into account, and they're normalized for subject area. Then the international collaboration bit, which is 2.5% of the International Outlook score. So it's proportion of the university's total publications with at least one international co-author. And then Scopus data looking at journals, articles, and so on, all the material they cover. Again, 5-year window, subject normalized. And there's more on that in the link here on just their methodology that you can go in and have a look at. Now, the SciVal bit. So SciVal is a tool that sits on top of Scopus. It kind of does a deeper analysis of the Scopus data, okay? And it does a ranking analysis via an overview model, okay? And it gives you access to the actual bibliometrics used in the Times Higher World University Rankings. So it's going to analyze, understand, generate insights based on the field-weighted citation index and citation scores using 30% of the World University Rankings. And it's also going to benchmark at the Times Higher subject level for deeper understanding of your university's position and to inform faculty and departmental level plans. So very important for all that, you know, your strategy, the university strategy, how that develops. It's going to analyze, benchmark, and produce peer comparison reports across all bibliometric drivers directly in the benchmarking module. And it's going to analyze the trends in bibliometric drivers to enrich your understanding and form plans. Of course, it's all about planning, great for planning. And then remove the need for manual curation and the development of proxy indicators. So it should do all this for you. You know, you're not going to have to set this up yourself. So just to access then Scopus and SciVal, Scopus is fine. You just go in on the library's A to Z of databases. For SciVal, you need to register with them and your initials will pop up here. And then you can just click into SciVal. It'll bring you straight into it, okay? And it's kind of like an authentication process. So you register and then it will go through your university login. So just I have some screenshots in here. I'll go in live now in a minute, but just to show you what they look like. So this is the Scopus level. I've showed you this already. Subject areas, demarcations, sources, affiliations, hierarchies. They're all in there. And this is the SciVal overview then. So this is just for Maynooth. It does thousands of universities. So you can do nice comparators as well if you want to compare one university with another or just look at them individually. Or even groups of researchers, if that's what you want to do. You can build up, you know, a group of researchers for your department. Compare them. But there's Maynooth. You're in the overview module, and there's your link there into rankings. But also you can look at, there's the overall summary for Maynooth, topics, collaborations, publications, citations, authors, patents, media impact, grants, and so on. Lots of useful information you can look at. So this is the MU rankings when I click the button. So there's your overall Times Higher, QS is in there as well. Okay, there's the positions in the different rankings. Okay. And this is the overall rankings, which is so. Okay, so this is some of the breakdowns when you go into them, when you actually go into the Times Higher. So there's your ranking: scholarly output, research productivity, international co-authorship, research strengths, lots of different areas. So you can look at there's research productivity, for example. Everything going in the right direction, which is nice. Okay. And that's the score, the research productivity score that you would have. I see the date ranges they're using. They're using that 5-year snapshot. It's not everything. And they're always just a little bit behind on that. You know, as you can imagine, for the data to be up to date, you know, if you were going to be looking at the position, say, at the end of 2023, so you're looking at the previous years, okay, in the calculation for that. There's your international co-authorship. So you're going to look at the citation impacts. Again, the same date range. You can analyze those. Your research strengths. So what are your research strength areas? And again, that can affect it because you can go in and look at, is there certain areas we're not strong in? Is there certain areas we are strong in? What can we do to improve that, to kind of, you know, boost it up a bit? Research excellence. So, and this is number of publications in the top 10% by global field-weighted citation impact. So again, very useful just to see, you know, what number or percentage of our publications are in those top journals, because obviously that all feeds into readership, citations, impact, all very important. Again, you can see we're nicely going up in the right direction on that as well. And then with patents. Okay, so how do you use SciVal to understand MU's ranking? So you're going to use it, for example, to identify and analyze research strengths. And from that, you could, you know, feed that into your research strategy. You can benchmark us against other research institutions, competitors, for example. If you identify maybe an Irish university that's similar to us, bit of a competitor, and go in and look at them and see what they're doing. And why are they ranked higher? What is it they're doing that we're not doing? And you can have a look at that. A way of identifying, potential researchers, collaborations, current or potential co-authors, very important, who would you like to work with? Will that then increase your, obviously, score for collaborations, your impact and so on? Key and upcoming researchers, who are the key people? Maybe do a bit of headhunting. Who's up and coming, or maybe just for collaboration, or you want to get them involved in some project, you could look at that. Our research topics, what are we researching? Where are our strengths? Where are our weaknesses? What can we do about that? And in the database, you can export all these results as spreadsheets. So for further analysis, if you want to do that. And as I mentioned, you can also create your own groups, your own little kind of snapshots of certain groups of researchers, certain institutes. You can create your own structures if you want to look at those in more detail. And as I mentioned, the SciVal interprets data that relates to 38.5% of the rankings. So it's an immediate thing you can go in and look at. Other parts of the rankings aren't so easy to access to really understand. I mean, how do you analyze a reputation survey? It's a bit trickier, but the SciVal one is something you can do. I'll just get out of this just for a second. I'm just going to pop into SciVal itself. Bear with me. Yeah, sorry about that. Here I am. Too many screens open. Okay, so this is what the SciVal looks like. Okay. So there is your basic, I'll go back into the summary. So as I mentioned, you're going into Scopus, you register with Scopus, and then you log into SciVal. Register with them and go straight into SciVal, and you'll know you're in when you see the initials there. So there's my summary of my metrics, all the different details, publications by subject area, research topics, performance indicators of various sorts, top 10% and so on. You're getting your top publications. You can get top authors, all that kind of thing, all very useful. But specifically for the rankings, you're going into this link. Okay. And there's your times higher, and you can go in there and analyze that then in more detail. Like so. So there's your various sections, your research productivity, your international co-authorship, your citation impact, research strengths, research excellence, patents, and so on. So lots of detail, and as I said, you can go in there and you can add that to reporting. You can export it as a spreadsheet. So, lots of useful tools. So if you're putting a report together, I just want to do further analysis, there's lots of options there to, I suppose, harvest that data from SciVal to look at that. And that's just the ranking site. You can also benchmark, you can do collaborations, lots more you can do that. And if anyone's interested in that, I have some useful guides on that, or I can talk to people about it as well. So that's that bit. So I'll just go back to where I was. Yeah. So that is what SciVal looks like. So just additional information on this. So there's some nice recordings here in SciVal. And these are interviews with various people that are working with SciVal. So SciVal, in their own words, from a variety of universities, including say Liam Clear there in UCD, for example. There's a lot of, particularly UK universities, a lot of interviews with various people that are using SciVal. For example, we do training on this in the library as well, and we're happy to talk to people about it as well, if you want further information on that. And just a bit then on improving your academic profile. So what can you do maybe as an individual to bump up your profile and, the number of citations you're getting and so on. So you can, as I mentioned, you can update your Scopus author profile, go into your Scope, search for yourself as an author in Scopus, and you can go in and look at your profile and you'll see an option there to merge your identity. So if you're up there a few times, different profiles under slightly different name variants, you can pull those together. You can also look at Web of Science, your Google Scholar profile, your ORCID profile. This all helps to improve your readership, your people seeing your work, and in turn the number of citations you'll get. Make sure you use the correct Maynooth University affiliation, which is Maynooth University, rather than get older ones like NUIM, NUI, your department, your research institute, whatever it is. The important one to get up front and center is Maynooth University. So the work will be attributed to Maynooth, and we'll get the the rankings for that. Published in journals indexed by Scopus. So obviously they are using Scopus for the rankings, and it's important to get your publications into journals that they're actually indexing. Okay, so that it will be included in the rankings as well. And make sure they're findable. That's very important for getting citations as well, that you have nice, straightforward titles that match your abstract, that match your keywords, that work, fitting with your metadata. So if people are searching for your papers, they can find them. Then the research area, what area are you researching in? Is there an area that is kind of getting higher traction at the moment, a bit hotter at the moment, or that you can maybe do a bit of work in that, which should get more attention from Maynooth and also for your impact. And then your visibility as well, when you do publish your papers, get them out there, disseminate them, put them up on academic networks, social media, conferences, all that kind of thing. Anything just to bump up your visibility. And make them open access, put them up in the repository, or check out if there's one of the open access agreements available for those, so the article processing charges could be waived, and we have a guide to those on the library homepage as well. So if you want to check if the journals that you're publishing in would be included in any of the deals, so that they'll go automatically open access. And I have a guide on that, research impact guide. This will go into a lot of the things I'm talking about here, metrics, research visibility, which databases to use for impact, and so on. Okay, so that is it. So thank you very much. I think we have a little bit of time left for any questions people might have.